Ms. Aller, are you ready? Dr. Aaron, all right.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I want to reconvene this meeting of the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, and thank you to everybody that's come out this evening. I know we've got quite a number of recognitions to present this evening, and public comment as well. Really thank you for coming out and being a part of this meeting. With that, let me ask if we can have a board member certified closed session, please.
Here.
Anybody ready? Thanks for bearing with us. We had an extra long closed session, so we're still getting ourselves together. Go ahead.
I certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, while in closed session, discussed only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements as stated in Virginia law, and that only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. I'll give it to Ms. Hundley and Ms. Aller.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dow.
Aye. And is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chair, I move the approval of the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dow.
Aye. And just so everyone is aware, Ms. Cook has been certified to attend this meeting via electronic communication. She's away in Chicago on a work event. All right. I would like to ask Mr. Louis Santalonzo to join us at the front podium. He's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Lafayette High School just won state for forensics. Mr. Santalonzo. Let's all stand. Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Santalonzo. All right, we're going to move on to item 4.01, announcements and superintendent's report.
Thank you,
Dr.
Mr.
Aaron.
Chair. Last month, you were introduced to the WJCC Schools Teachers of the Year from each building. Our division is so fortunate to have exceptional educators at every level, poised to support our students and serve our community. On Thursday, May 5th, Mr. Dowell and the WJCC Schools Foundation and I had the privilege to name the 2022 WJCC Schools Teacher of the Year and Rookie Teacher of the Year. Miss Stephanie Klein, a kindergarten teacher at Laurel Lane Elementary School, was named the WJCC Schools Division Teacher of the Year. While describing one of the first classrooms she walked into as a preschooler, Miss Klein speaks of wonder and magic, of creation and imagination. She is referring to the influence and inspiration of her preschool teacher, her grandmother. We know this magic now lives on through Miss Klein and is imparted to her students every day. Congratulations again, Miss Klein. Our WJCC Schools Rookie Teacher of the Year is Ravon Patrick from Norge Elementary School. I had the pleasure of seeing Mr. Patrick creatively transform the Norge Gym into an Olympic stadium where students enthusiastically engaged in many Winter Olympic events. With this creativity and connection to his students, there was certainly an atmosphere of learning and fun at Norge Elementary. Congratulations again, Mr. Patrick. And finally, you may have noticed Miss Penny Pooley accompanying me in the previous two photographs. Miss Pooley is chair of the WJCC Schools Foundation. The foundation came forward this year to serve as title sponsor for the Teacher of the Year Awards ceremony. Thanks to their generosity, each honoree walked away with a financial gift from the foundation to recognize their achievement. We're so fortunate to have the foundation champion our teachers now and in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Heron. Any board members have any reports to offer at this time?
I just have a SEAC report.
Yes, ma'am.
They would like the board to know that they thank us for passing the inclusion policy that we did last month. And they also will be presenting their report to us on June 21st, and to look for their new brochure, which will have some art revealed from one of our members, which is a student member named Cora. And any people that are interested in signing up, please look for the application if you're interested in serving on SEAC in the fall.
Thank you, Ms. Hunley. Any other reports from board members? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5.01, student and staff recognized. Dr. Beers and Ms. Young, will you meet me down front to hand out recognitions?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we have several individuals to recognize for outstanding accomplishments and partnership. We begin by recognizing students who receive individual championships for athletics or forensic from the Virginia High School League. League awards recognize the achievement of not only schools, but also individual contestants who win specific state competitions. We are proud to celebrate these students for their outstanding achievement. We will call the students who are with us tonight up by school. Will the following students from Lafayette please join us up front to be recognized and remain until each name has been called. Luis Seda Olanza won the Forensic State Championship title for Humorous Duo. In girls swimming, Gracie Gregory won her title in 500-meter freestyle. And in boys swimming, Nathan Cummings, Braden Lee, and Victor Parks were all named for the 200-meter freestyle relay. Outstanding job to these Lafayette students. Let's give them a hand one more time. From Jamestown, Xavier Brown was named to the boys basketball All-State First Team, and Scott Mullen was named to the All-State Second Team. Caroline Bauer set a new state record in indoor track for the 3,200-meter race. Caroline, along with Kylie Brooks, Parker Long, Haley Shearer, won a title for the 4x800 relay. Are Kylie, Parker, and Haley here? I guess not. Well, let's give them a hand anyway. Walker Van Kirk set a new class record in pole vault. In swimming, Willow Hansen set a new class record in 50-meter free. Caroline, along with, Kaylin Brisky, Andy Hayward, Louisa Lamerdin, and Willow Hanson won the title for 200 free. And Kaylin, Addie Hayward, Brittany Denny, and Willow Hanson won the 400 free relay. And Jarrett Russett was named to the All-State team for wrestling. It's my sport. Students, you may be seated. Thank you. Oh, okay. A number of the student athletes from all three high schools were unable to be here this evening, but we send congratulations to every student who was named a state champion. WJC is fortunate to have local business partners with us to help us elevate learning in our classrooms. Tonight, we will recognize three partners who were named to the 2022 Virginia School Boards Association Business Honor Roll. The ongoing commitment and support of these businesses offer help our students and schools to be successful. Their partnership is very much appreciated. As your business is called, I would ask the representatives here tonight to join us in front and remain until each business has been called. Greystone of Williamsburg, Aiken White. Partnership with Greystone has created opportunities for WJCC school students to understand the learning in classroom translates to relevant real-world experiences and career. Through Manufacturing Day, students gain hands-on knowledge about skills needed in the workforces and opportunities to enhance readiness. Mr. White's personal goal is to not only find career opportunities at Greystone that work for students, but to also build relationships with them to help ensure a successful transition from school to career. Thank you. Williamsburg Area Association of Realtors, Lynn Grimsley, President. Williamsburg Area Association of Realtors wanted to make a positive impact on students with high needs. McKinney-Vento families, as defined by the federal government, lack fixed, regular, and adequate 9-time residence. WAAR gave several contributions at clothing, toiletries, school supplies, food, as well as Walmart and Target gift cards to aid families in getting school-related materials and basic needs. WAAR equipped families residing in hotels with cleaning supplies to help combat the pandemic and gave toys and books to help keep students active during the summer. Walmart Distribution, unfortunately, is unable to join us tonight, but we would like to thank them for their support of WJCC school teachers. The distribution center offered a sizable donation to support teachers with supplies for their classrooms. Their willingness to step up during this time to support teachers is invaluable to us, and we are truly thankful for their commitments to the success of our school division. We value community engagement in the learning process and depend on partnerships like these to enhance experiences for our students. We are honored to highlight these contributions and thank each of our partners again for supporting our students and schools. Oh my golly, we're not done yet. Mr. Chairman, stay right where you are. And now we turn our attention to staff who are integral to the success of our school division. The WJCC Support Employee of the Year program brings recognition to outstanding employees and their contributions. One support employee from each school and non-school based department was selected by their peers and colleagues. We appreciate these employees' dedication to our schools, departments, and most importantly, our students. A few of the 2020 support employees had schedule conflicts and could not join us this evening. However, we will announce each of the recipients and acknowledge of this wonderful accomplishment. Support employees as your name is called. Please come up front and remain until all employees have been named. The Bright Beginning Support Employee of the Year, Elise White. DJ Montague Support Employee of the Year, Laura Lichty is not here tonight, but we should still give her a hand. The J. Blaine Blayton Support Employee of the Year, Jenny Leisel. She is. The James River Support Employee of the Year, Laura Gukwa.
I get it. All right.
That close? Thank you, Laura. Laurel Lane Support Employee of the Year, Mary Alice Lloyd. And Matoka Support Employee of the Year, Angela Satterfield, is not here with us this evening, but Elizabeth Wells, the Matthew Whaley Support Employee of the Year, is here. Tammy Brown is the Nord Support Employee of the Year. Stonehouse Support Employee of the Year is Karen Fry, who is not able to be with us this evening. The Berkeley Support Employee of the Year is Nancy Scheffler. And the Lois Hornsby Support Employee of the Year is William Capers. And the James Blair Support Employee of the Year, Brittany Merrow, was not able to be with us this evening. The Jamestown Support Employee of the Year is Louisa Johnson. And the Jamestown Support Employee of the Year, the Tawano Support Employee of the Year is Viola Mitchell. The War Hill Support Employee of the Year is Dimitri Garner. And the Central Office Support Employee of the Year is Star Robinson. Operation Support Employee of the Year is Crystal Meeker. Daniel Turner is the Technology Support Employee of the Year who is unable to be with us this evening. The Transportation Support Employee of the Year is Cliff Abadi.
Right here, if you could squeeze in and turn, twist so that you're, and squeeze in, please. There we go. A little bit more. Do you want to see those? I think we'll be okay.
Because we have a... Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Congratulations to these outstanding employees. They will be recognized formally next week at the Support Employees Reception. Mr. Chairman, this concludes recognition this evening. What a happy time that was.
Congratulations to everyone. Wow. Support employees and our business partners and everyone, our students that were recognized. It's just a fun time to be together and to recognize all the wonderful things that are happening in this division. And Dr. Beers, well done. That was a lot. Good job.
I tried not to skip, so I didn't want to miss anybody.
You got it. All right. My computer is asleep. So we're going to move on to our public comment, item 6.01. Dr. Beers?
Yes, let me gather myself here just for a bit. All right, let's see, there they are. It is at this point in our meeting where citizens are invited to address the board. These citizens desiring to speak have submitted speaker cards to the clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. These speakers are asked to come to the podium when their names are called, state their names for the record, and direct their comments to the chair of the board. It is the board's interest and desire that all comments are heard and respected. Hence, citizens are asked not to engage in applauding, verbal outbursts, or any other type of demonstration during the presentations. Personal matters are not considered in public meeting. Therefore, the board requests that all speakers refrain from making reference to specific individuals in any form or fashion. Though the board does not respond to your comments are heard and appreciated. Each speaker is allocated 1 minute and 30 seconds to make their presentation, and the board asks that you respect this time limitation. Also, please be reminded that no time may be yielded to another speaker. Your acceptance and adherence to these guidelines will be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My directions are concluded.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Who do we have?
All right. Our first speaker is Jessica Anderson.
Hello, my name is Jessica Anderson. I want to touch on the latest educational talking point I've heard discussed at the recent school board meetings, SEL, which appears to be the new CRT. I can say from someone who was formerly only a parent looking in to becoming an employee of one of the amazing elementary schools, I struggle to empathize with the attacks on the school board and school staff over things like mass, CRT, and now SEL. Week after week, I watched a dozen or so parents try to talk over the more than 11,000 students and their families, many of which acknowledge SEL gives students the inclusivity, support, and equity they need and deserve. As adults, we recognize that growth and learning is far easier in a comfortable environment. The same way hunger impacts students' ability to focus or succeed, and we provide those students with meals, a student struggling with personal, emotional concerns should have access to school staff that can provide the appropriate social, emotional support. Having a large and diverse community such as ours, we will see a variety of family dynamics and family challenges, some more severe than others, and the connections SEL creates with staff, teachers, and counselors could be the positive difference in those students' lives. The idea that exposing children to empathy as a form of indoctrination is incredibly disheartening to me, as both a mother and a school employee. I also want to quickly touch on the recent debate over removing certain AP textbooks, courses of which are optional and not required for graduation, and just thank you for reconsidering and reversing your original decision. Concerns about a book, interaction, or conversation a student heard or discussed at school is an opportunity for us to parent and talk to them about those topics, not demand the school to bend to our will.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Thank you.
Next speaker is Leslie Street.
Hello, my name is Leslie Street. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm the mother of 2 children in this school district, and I wanted to come and speak to you today to support my children's outstanding teachers, counselors, and school staff who support them in developing a love of learning, a curiosity about the world, and a desire to be the best that they can be. Critical to their education are the concepts taught as a part of the social emotional learning in their school curriculum. The benefits to including SEL as part of a curriculum are numerous. It helps my kids and their classmates feel safe, respected, and supported so that they can do their best. It teaches them critical problem-solving skills to help them overcome and know that their mistakes do not define them. SEL builds confidence and resilience. Like so many other parents, I appreciate the support of schools that teach my kids how to manage emotions and build self-confidence to try new tasks. But most critically, in today's sometimes hateful and divisive world, I appreciate that SEL teaches my children teamwork, collaboration, and how to work with others, many of whom may be different or have diverse opinions from them. I'm grateful that empathy is taught explicitly, the ability for my children to try to put themselves in the shoes of others. Kindness and empathy should be the basis for how we interact with each other. Indeed, sometimes when I watch these proceedings, seeing the anger and outrage that motivates speakers to make false claims, I wish that more people had engaged with an SEL curriculum in their education to learn how to disagree respectfully and inculcate an attitude of inclusivity. Thank you.
Ms. Street. Thank you.
Next speaker is Robin Pawlowski.
Good evening. My name is Robin Pawlowski, and my husband and I have lived in the Williamsburg, James City County area since 1987. We raised 3 children in the school system. We are concerned about the children in this school system, and this is the reason why both my husband and I speak at the school board meetings regularly. Tonight, I want to remind you of a Virginia law. A parent has a fundamental right to make decisions concerning the upbringing, education, and care of the parent's child. Code of Virginia 1-24 4.0.1. Social emotional learning has become a major focus amongst many parents across the country. Right now, our school system has decided to implement SEL without the consent of parents. If a parent wants to embrace this value system, no problem. However, if you do not want to have SEL in your child's education, you are out of luck. SEL, whether you support this or not, will affect every subject, as it will be the basis of what is learned. No longer is math, reading, or science enough. SEL will take precedence. According to one member on the Virginia Department of Education's committee, we want SEL embedded in everything that is taught. It appears SEL will be the lens in which every subject will be filtered through. This is not what teachers are supposed to do. The value system that children have are those of the family. The reason we have a new governor is because parents want to say in their children's education, they want to say. This is not happening in our school system. Thank you.
Ms. Pezlowski.
Our next speaker is Cara McLean.
Hi, I'm Cara, and I have a son that's in 9th grade at the Jamestown High School. And I have been having trouble with transparency in the family life section that is in May of this year. In December, I went to talk to the teacher, and I received a book that I could look at. But I realized by the third meeting that I had with her in March that the book was not used too often, and the standards of learning were used, but it took me until April 27th to see any lesson plans to show me what this class that she had told me every single meeting that I went to with her entailed. There was supposed to be a form, she told me, every meeting that if I wanted to opt out, I could, and any parent could opt out. And there was also supposed to be material in the library. I finally saw the material and I was able to opt my son out, but I decided I should look in the library and see what there was. And on the 3rd of May, when I went to look, at the end of the day, the principal was able to let me know that he had talked to central office and there was nothing in the library or anywhere to be seen. And so I'm just asking that for this coming year, you make sure that there is a form available, which is not given out this year, at least in my son's class, and that there be something to be seen that tells what the class is about so that parents can make an informed decision.
Thank you, Ms. McLean. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Hassan.
Good evening. I would like to take this time to thank Mr. Dow, Ms. Young, and Ms. Ortego for doing the right thing at the last meeting, standing by your decision from the prior meeting regarding the purchase of the divisive history and government textbooks. For the remaining board members, shame on you. First, for bringing this issue up at the last moment so no one could prepare, though you were all clearly working on it since the end of your previous meeting. Second, for the backdoor procedure you used to do it. Ms. Cook, I appreciate your interpretation of what you feel Code IIAA states, but clearly two attorneys disagreed with you. It's strange that you had to seek outside counsel after discussing this with the board's attorney. I can only surmise that this is because what we in the legal field call forum shopping, that you didn't like the answer from the board's attorney, so you sought another opinion. And it's strange that you only included the history government books in your little song and dance from the last meeting. Shouldn't you have relooked the science books that you also approved, since you violated the policy on those also? And what about the other books you've approved in previous years while still not following your policy? You sadly did not put our children above your own political objectives. Your actions were only to ensure that you spent the money this year on books that you knew would not be recommended for use next year under the new administration. Stop this political grandstanding and start putting our children first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hossain.
Emery Smith.
Okay, good evening. Question, whose children are they? And the answer is they're mine. And his are his, and hers are hers. Whose they are not are yours, or the admins, or the teachers. I choose the values and lessons that my child will learn. I don't co-parent with anyone but my husband. And as hard as this is to hear, I do get to choose what they're taught in school. My parental rights by law always take precedent. What any teacher or admin here says about curriculum, textbooks, etc. is honestly irrelevant, and it cannot supersede my parental opinion. If I hire a babysitter and explain the bedtime hours, the food restrictions, that there's to be no foul language or sexual language, and they do the opposite, that would be the last time I would hire that person. Interviewing 20 kids in high school about a textbook cover goes to the heart of this issue. You approached the kids. Why circumvent the parents? Who gave you that right? High school kids are still children and still need guidance. Parents are still their first line of defense. By subverting their authority, you denied the parents proper involvement and perspective in the discussion. So what's the key lesson here? Listen. When we raise a concern, majority or minority, it should be addressed and righted, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Our next speaker is Tori Ottstadt.
Good evening. My name is Tori Ottstadt and I live in the Jamestown district. I have an elementary student in WJCC. I'm here to speak about social emotional learning, or SEL, which has recently been wrongfully associated with critical race theory, or CRT. I want to share a story about the impact of SEL on my daughter. A few months ago, I contacted my daughter's school because I noticed she was having trouble finding good fit friends. And when she did, she had unrealistic expectations for herself and the friend. She is autistic and has always worked very hard at learning social skills that may come easily to other students. The school immediately responded that my daughter would be invited to be a part of a lunch group, which my daughter had such a positive experience with. While looking through the folder that was made for each student, I found a sheet on which my daughter had identified the things she likes about herself, and sunny friendship traits and thunderbolt friendship traits. I believe that this experience will encourage her to find and be a good friend. I remember struggling to make and keep friends in elementary school, feeling like I didn't understand why it was so hard. My parents were very involved in my life, but they did not see me interact with other students in the way that my teachers did. It would have been helpful to have someone teach me how to be and recognize a good friend, and I appreciate how the school took my concern about my child seriously, responded kindly and efficiently, and followed through with their offer of assistance. I hope all teachers and counselors in WJCC will continue to be supported in being able to offer opportunities like this to students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ossop.
Our next speaker is Hassan Lamont.
Good evening. Hassan Lamont, City of Williamsburg. The state law that establishes the statutes for social emotional learning and its associated guidance standards do not have a mandate or requirement for Virginia school divisions to adopt any portion of SEL programs provided by the Virginia Department of Education. Now, I won't use my limited time here to discuss any opinions on SEL or the pros and cons of it. I will, however, state this fact. The fact is, social emotional learning and its implementation in our public schools is both controversial and it is divisive. Having said that, it's unclear which specific SEL standards were adopted by WJCC schools. I have a few questions. When did the WJCC Schools Division formally or otherwise adopt the Virginia Department of Education's SEL guidance standards? Number two, what assessments were used to ultimately determine the community's needs regarding SEL's implementation in our schools? Number three, were the SEL standards from the Virginia Department of Education presented to the parents and community residents for their consideration or input prior to their adoption in our school system? And number four, which specific portions of the SEL guidance standards did WJCC Public Schools adopt as part of its local policies? Now, I don't expect any of my questions to be answered here tonight, but it's in the public's interest for the school board to answer those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lamont. Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Bickham Mendez.
Good evening, members of the school board and Dr. Herron. My name is Jennifer Bickham Mendez. I'm a parent of 2 WJCC alumni, a resident of James City County, and a member of the Village Initiative. And on behalf of the village, we would like to thank you for the sound judgment that you demonstrated in reversing your decision and supporting the adoption of social science textbooks approved by the Virginia Department of Education. As we move into these late stages of the current pandemic, I wanted to call your attention to the Village Initiative's 2022 Equity Report. I believe the link was sent to you all. As you know, this report is developed annually by the Village, spearheaded by my colleague Amy Quirk at William & Mary and a team of student interns at William & Mary. The report from this year paints a grim picture of declining SOL rates across the schools. However, aggregate data does not tell the whole story. Using an equity lens reveals the differential impact that the pandemic has had across different groups of students. As an educator myself, we're definitely feeling this differential impact. Some groups of students will face considerable more difficulty in recovering after 2 years of major disruptions in their learning. What is equity? I'll use a definition from the Virginia Department of Education, but it could come from any course that I teach. It's education equity is achieved when we eliminate the predictability of student outcomes based on race, gender, zip code, ability, socioeconomic status, or languages spoken at home. It seems to me that this is a concept that we should all be able to agree on, that factors about which students and families have no control should not determine educational outcomes. Please check out our report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our next speaker is Sean Tremley.
Hi, Sean Tremblay. I wanted to thank the board again for reversing their decision and upgrading the social studies books. I'm not one that's going to say that history is inherently divisive. It isn't. It is what it is. And if we're going to be speaking to children, we need to speak to all of them and teach our history as it is. I mean, this is ground zero for all of it. This is the English-speaking capital, where it all began, all the good and all the bad, including interactions with the first peoples here, and the first slave ships landed here. So this is not something we can deny. The SEL. I don't understand how teaching emotional, emotional resilience, respect for others, and compassion are against anybody's values. I mean, whose values would that be against? I don't understand what the controversy is. Perhaps, and the kids are at school for 6 hours a day, so they're not always with their parents. And maybe the parents aren't imparting good values. And I'll give you an example, something deeply personal. My son died at 15, and he was exceptional in every way, an excellent student, handsome, strong, athletic, funny. And maybe if parents had had values of compassion, he'd still be here. So obviously those values weren't being carried over.
Thank you, Mr. Tremblay. I'm sorry for your loss.
Our next speaker is Chris Radley.
Hello. My name is Chris, and I want to come and talk about some of the events from the last meeting. Now, I don't really care too much about the book controversy, but there are a few things that I do care about. So firstly, it was obvious multiple board members discussed and deliberated official business outside of public view. We also saw a board member insist that they had to collectively support a board decision, while in the same breath demanding that they change a past decision. We saw you suspend your own policies to push through a potentially illegal last-minute agenda change. You locked out the public from our ability to comment on your schemes. And at the end of the meeting, one member gloated that your unethical, hypocritical, and illegal acts were democracy in action. Well, that's not democracy. That's power. And those are actions that break norms, destroy trust, and corrupt institutions. My only question is why? Why would you do this? Are you so arrogant, so shameless, that you would burn the credibility over a couple books? Well, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, and when you lose your credibility, you don't get it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Next.
Gayla Bumgard.
We can't hear you, sir.
Gayla Bumgard, sorry, I'm sorry, Gayla.
I would like to speak about the transportation. Non-transportation zones should not be considered. You should put together a work group of students, parents, bus drivers, staff, and community members to review these TransFinder recommendations to reach a consensus on how to tackle this problem. I was subject to this 1 mile policy as a child, and it was very difficult on me. I had to walk to school in the rain, cold, heat, through a muddy field with a heavy backpack and a saxophone. But no one cared that there was a muddy field there, since they just drew a big circle 1 mile around my school. I was often late and almost got hit by a car more than once walking to school. We didn't have a car, and when we did, it was broken down a lot. If you are at all concerned about equity, you will not discriminate against kids based on their address. Changing the school times is way overdue and should be implemented immediately for this August. I also reject this idea that students can ride the city bus. Have you ever tried to commute anywhere on the city bus system in Williamsburg? I would like the board to change its policy that bus stop to home is 0.5 and 1 mile respectively. That is too far and is well outside of our long-established practices. However, I also think that with the current stats you showed, some of the bus stops can be farther apart and there can be less stops, which will allow more kids onto each bus but not make the runs take too long. I heard a lot of good ideas about solutions to the driver shortage. Please reject the non-transportation zone choice. Also, please allow public speakers 2 minutes again. 90 seconds is just insulting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baumgarten.
Next speaker is Susan Hildum.
Hello, I'm Susan Hildum. I'm representing the local chapter of NAACP. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you very much for approving the new textbook purchases. Mainly, I wanted to speak about some research that I saw published last fall from the Southern Poverty Law Center. And they found that if students see positive representatives of themselves in their curriculum, they have improved educational outcomes with increased academic achievement and decreased dropout rates and school suspensions. So I think that the textbooks will help with this, hopefully. And also, I really want to stress the importance of hiring more African American teachers, specifically to help the African American population, which is more heavily impacted by such things as the dropout rates and the school suspensions. So we know that there are people who are applying for jobs here, African Americans who do not get hired. So we really want to emphasize that it's important to get people interviewed, hire principals who will interview these teachers and hire them, and also support them in order to retain them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hildum.
And our next speaker is John Slokovich. Slokovich.
So I sat here through all these speakers who advocated things like wholeheartedly believed. Things like SEL gives teachers the opportunity to parent students. This is not their job. They tell us how SEL helps them empathize with children and all these great accolades. Well, what was it that they were teaching our kids last year? Why are these great teachers so horrible without being mandated to do so? Why are teachers terrible to students that need someone in their lives to show them the right of way last year? This is a problem. But the bigger problem is that while teachers are now lending a hand to the young children, they feel the need to do this behind the backs and underhandedly around parents. Listen, if you're a parent and you can't raise your child on your own, it's great that now teachers are willing to help raise your child for you. But this is not how I want to raise my children. This board has become an echo chamber for the superintendent and radical teachers, not a voice of parents, which it's intended to be. Just a quick story. Where I grew up back in New York, there was a little thing called a video store. They sold videos there, and there was a section that had a curtain. Behind that curtain was all the nasty videos that kids weren't allowed to see. Listen, you want your 11-year-old daughter to have access to pornographic books in our libraries? Great. Put them behind a section behind the libraries, behind the librarians. These are policies we need to be enacting, not the other way around. I should not have to opt out of things like this. People who agree with me with that sort of thing to raise their children should have to opt in.
Thank you, Mr. Slokovich.
That was the final speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Okay, thank you for all of our speakers coming out and participating in this, in the discussion this evening. Moving on to item 7.01, review amendment to contract with ACL schools, and I believe we're going to see this again under action items LC item 9.06. Dr. Herron?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Snipes is going to very briefly present this item tonight, as we had a detailed presentation on it at the last meeting. Mr. Snipes.
Thank you, Dr. Herring. Good evening, school board chair, school board members. As you recall, on July the 20th, the school board authorized a contract to ALC not to exceed $1.1 million for this school year 21-22. And during the course of this school year, staff has consistently monitored the weekly spending expenditure. And while the $1.1 million is estimated to carry us through this school year, the additional funding required will provide a contingency for potential fluctuation of transporting students in the final weeks of the academic year. The revised recommended increase of $25,000 will bring the total cost for fiscal year 22, school year 21-22, to a cost not to exceed $1,125,000. Superintendent recommends you review the information and be prepared to vote later tonight.
Any questions for Mr. Snipes on this additional funding need? All right, we definitely don't want to be left in a lurch as we approach the end of the year, so thank you for bringing this to our attention, sir.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Herron. All right, item 8.8, not 8.8, 8.01, 2, and 3, consent agenda, which are approval of financial report and monthly bills and payroll for April 2022, approval of minutes from April 19th, 2022's meeting, and the approval of minutes from May 3rd, 2022's meeting. May I have a motion on the consent agenda as read?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hummel. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Young?
Aye.
Dr. Beers?
Aye.
Ms. Cook?
Aye.
Ms. Hummel?
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley?
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego?
Aye.
And Mr. Dow?
Aye. Thank you. All right, item 9.01, approval to adopt the fiscal year 23 operating budget. Dr. Herron?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Ewing, our Chief Financial Officer, has a very short presentation of an overview of the budget that you will be considering this evening. Ms. Ewing.
Thank you, Dr. Herron. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. This evening I have a brief presentation, as Dr. Herron stated, just prior to your adoption of the budget. Here you will see a breakdown of revenue for our operating fund. Last week, the localities both adopted their fiscal year 23 budgets, which included fully funding our request. As the state has not yet adopted a budget for next year, our state revenue is currently based on Governor Northam's introduced budget from December 2021. Once the state budget is finalized, we will bring an amendment back to the board if necessary. As a reminder, the House version of the budget was estimated to be a reduction in state funding of approximately $320,000, and the Senate version of the budget was estimated to include additional state funding of approximately $960,000. We hope the final state budget falls somewhere between the two. On this slide, you will see all funds for the fiscal year 23 budget proposal as compared to the current year. The total of all funds, including operating, grants, state-operated programs, and child nutrition services funds, amounts to a total of $183,520,200. For the grants fund, the fiscal year 23 amount of $16.6 million does include our estimated carryover amount of $10.4 million from our ESSER grants, as these grants do not expire until either September 2023 or September 2024. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Ms. Ewing? And Ms. Cook, looking at you too.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to state that as a member of the School Board of Williamsburg, James City County, I acknowledge that I have an interest in the fiscal year 23 school budget because I'm an employee of the Williamsburg Health Foundation. However, I believe that I'm able to participate in the consideration of and vote on the budget fairly and in the public interest. And I presume Ms. Hunley has something similar to say, but I do have one question after that. Sir.
Yes, as a member of the School Board of Williamsburg, James City County, I acknowledge that I may have an interest in the FY23 school budget because my husband is an employee of the WJCC schools. However, I believe that I am able to participate in the consideration and vote on the budget fairly, objectively, and in the public interest.
Thank you both. Ms. Cook?
Yes, could we just speak publicly for a moment, Mr. Dallin? Maybe you'd like to do this about sort of what our Plan A and Plan B are with regard to if the General Assembly in their final adopted budget that the governor then signs, it kind of if we fall short on what we're expecting from them.
I'll let Dr. Herron do that if she would like.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Chair. We do, obviously, we don't know what the budget will be. We have two options, as Renee has mentioned tonight, Ms. Ewing, one that's over budget and one that could be under budget. Once we know the final details, we will look internally at our budget and make adjustments to our current budget and try to isolate those things that do not impact the 7% teacher raise. That we will protect that at all costs because we value our employees and we want to make sure we continue with that next year.
Well, but aren't we, if in the transmittal letter that Mr. Chairman Dow sent to the local governments, I think we asked them if they would consider keeping us whole in the event that the General Assembly shorted us on the draft budgets that we were planning from. So that's kind of what I was hoping we could talk about.
We, of course, made that request, and that'll be part of the plan, asking them to make that consideration. But, yeah, as you've indicated, we've got a Plan B in the event that they are not able to.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions for Ms. Ewing? Yeah. Well, this is where we find ourselves, and I think that it's not been a surprise that we have to develop these plans, these likely eventualities if we are unfunded or our budget is hit by activity or lack thereof in the General Assembly. And so I appreciate that we are signaling to our teachers that they are and will remain to be a priority for this division. Certainly goes without saying that we cannot do anything without them being here and being present. And with that, we know that they need our support as well, and that 7% is a small token of our gratitude and appreciation and our value for them as participants, stakeholders really, in this division. So I'm glad to, and I'll be willing to support this budget as it is, and knowing that if we have to make hard decisions, we won't be touching the teachers' salaries. All right.
Mr. Darrell,
Yes,
I just add it's teachers and all employees.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, absolutely. All right, no other questions? We will call the question. Ms. Aller. Oh, we don't have a motion. I apologize. Can I have a motion on approval to adopt the fiscal year 23 operating budget? Thank you, Ms. Aller, for that weird look you gave me.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the financial, whoops, I think I got the wrong thing.
9.01.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the adoption of the fiscal year 23 budget in the amount of $183,520,200.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Orego, and thank you, Ms. Hundley, for the second.
Can we have the entire recommended action for the operating budget and grants fund?
Okay, can do that.
Please.
See that?
So it's
Ms.
right
Ortega,
here, yeah.
under recommended action at the top.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Move to adopt the fiscal year 23 budget in the total amount of $183,520,200. This includes $159,905,000 for the operating fund, $16,619,500 for the grants fund, $1,163,700 for the state operated programs fund, and $5,832,000 for the child nutrition services fund.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. And Ms. Hundley, does your
Yes,
second
I
stand?
still second
All right.
that.
Thank you. Ms. Aller.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Item 9.02, approval to adopt amended 5-year capital improvement plan for FY 23 through 27.
Thank you, Mr. Dow. Ms. Ewan will take us through some of the changes in the original board-approved plan. Thank you, Ms. Ewan.
Thank you, Dr. Heron. Yes, this evening I will be reviewing what was approved in the school board's capital improvement plan for fiscal year 23 as it compares to what was funded by the city and county. As a reminder, we should remember that the capital improvement plan, the first year of the plan is the funded year and the remaining 4 years are just our plan. Within the school board's approved fiscal year plan for fiscal year 23, we requested the following projects which have been funded by the localities. Restroom renovation at Claribird Baker, replacement of a walk-in refrigerator and freezer at James River, replacement of gutters, restroom renovation, replacement of vinyl tiles and carpet, and interior painting at Laurel Lane, carpet replacement, as well as replacement of the walk-in refrigerator and freezer at Matthew Whaley, design funds for the HVAC replacement at Matthew Whaley, Year 2 construction funding for the HVAC replacement at Berkeley Middle School. The approved funding was reduced from $2.7 million to $1 million for this project. This is due to the division receiving an HVAC grant from the Department of Education for this project, as well as the bid for the project coming in lower than the amount we had included in the capital improvement plan. Our request for funding in fiscal year 24 has also been completely removed, as the funds won't be needed. Replacement of the rubber roof and canopy at Berkeley. Division-wide funding for parking lots, sidewalks, concrete repairs, and playground equipment, as well as funds to replace fire panels. Design funds for a pre-K space was requested in fiscal year 23, but the localities allocated funds during the current fiscal year to begin this process. 2 items not funded next fiscal year that were in our request include construction funds for the cafeteria expansion at Jamestown High School, as well as construction funds for the renovation of the 900 building at Lafayette. Both of these projects have been shifted to fiscal year 2024. And as you know, shifting projects to future years potentially results in higher costs, and the impact will be evaluated during the next CIP budget cycle. In total, we requested $14,109,000 in fiscal year 23, and the localities have funded $3,818,000. The school board approved CIP for fiscal years 23 through 27 was requested for $72,532,000, and the localities have a plan that totals $56,931,000 for a difference of $15,601,000. The majority of this difference has to do with a reduction in the funding for the pre-K space construction. On this slide, I've outlined what makes up the funding difference of $15.6 million. A portion of that difference has to do with the Berkeley HVAC replacements, since we received a grant in the amount of $2.2 million, and the bids came in about $2 million less than the anticipated cost over 3 years. The amount of funding in fiscal year 23 was reduced to $1 million, and our request for funding in fiscal year 24 was removed completely. As previously mentioned, the design of pre-K space was funded in the current fiscal year, which amounts to $3.3 million. In fiscal year 24, we requested $33 million in funding for the construction of a pre-K space, and that has been reduced down to $25 million. Lastly, in fiscal year 26, the bus additions that we had included were removed. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Ms. Ewing? So that last slide, 7, removal of bus additions, fiscal year 26, how many buses does that equate? Is that 6-ish? 5?
It's 5.
5.
Typically we have 5.
Ms. Cook, are you there?
Thank you. Thank you. So the bus additions were they to accommodate the new construction, Ms. Ewing?
Yes, they were.
Okay. So I guess, well, let me step back. Did the county offer any explanation or logic for pushing back the cafeteria at Jamestown and the renovation at Lafayette and the reduction in cost for pre-K space, and also removing buses? Because the pre-K space was to add seats, and so if you add seats, you need to add transportation. So did they offer any logic for any 4 of those changes?
I have not received any information regarding the reasoning behind the changes.
So there was no transmittal letter or explanation from them to us?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Be a good question for our upcoming liaison committee meeting.
Indeed.
Okay. Maybe I should have prepped you with this question. I apologize. But so what are the, if you're able to share, the FY22-23 projects that essentially would be approved this evening with this adoption?
The fiscal 23 project?
Yeah, some of the high-level ones off the top of your head. I apologize. No?
I kind of just went over those.
Yeah.
The ones on 1, 2, and 3?
Thank you. Okay. I was considering this in a different way, but okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, just mine then. Do we have a motion to approve this CIP?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the adoption of the amended 5-year capital improvement plan for year 23 to fiscal year 27 in the amount of $56,931,000.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Any further discussion? Okay. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Ewing. All right, 9.03, approval of request for proposal 2022928, LIEP. Dr. Aaron?
We have no comments or presentation on the other action items, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. So this is a request for a language instruction educational program to Elevation, Inc., funded through grant funds, Title III grant funds. Total cost for purchase is $17,110. And that is looked to be an annual expense each year over approximately 8 years. Again, we had really well done and an in-depth presentation in our last meeting. Were there any questions for staff before we ask for a motion? We're all clear on this? Okay. Can I have a motion for this proposal?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an award of contract for request for proposal 2022928, Language Instruction Educational Program, LIEP, to Elevation Incorporated with a purchase cost of $17,110 for the first year.
Is that 1,000, I believe?
Well, that's not the way it's written.
Is that not how it's written? Let me
So
go back
it's
here.
what is it?
$17,110.
$17,110?
Yeah.
For the first year. What
Yeah.
did I say?
Million.
Did I say
It's okay.
million?
All right, we got it.
Wow, we are really saving money by bringing it down to $17,110. Thank you.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Any other discussion? Ms. Aller.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Henley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right. 9.04, approval of purchase request for outdoor learning spaces for park and play structures. Again, another great presentation we received last week, and I cannot recall the two schools that are not receiving these park and play structures, but it was based on not being in a space where, or time and space where they could see the need or to be able to support the use thereof. And so I think there's going to be an opportunity for those two holdouts to apply for this at a later time.
Potentially. One was Matthew Whaley because of the architectural issues and not being able to put an extra structure. The other was Jamestown High School, who are moving towards building an extended cafeteria.
Right. But the other 14 are looking for a positive vote this evening and ready to move forward on those structures. Any questions for staff before we go into a motion? Seeing none. May I have a motion on this?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve purchase request for outdoor learning spaces from Park and Play Structures List Products under Omnia Cooperative Contract Number R220202 in the amount of $245,863.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Any discussion? All right. And I don't want to miss you, Ms. Cook. You good?
I'm good, thank you, sir.
Okay. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel. Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right. 9.05, approval of award of contract for the invitation for bid 2022930, interior refurbishment of Norge Elementary School. This is a bid gone out to Verdexco in the amount of $826,000. And they're going to be, that school is going to be receiving refurbishment, including painting, carpets, tile throughout the school. And any questions for staff before we get into a motion?
Mr. Chair, I was
Yes,
a
Ms.
little,
Cook.
I was a little confused about the delta between the budgeted amount and the amount that we're approving. If maybe I was just reading it wrong. If we could just get some clarification from that on staff, I'd appreciate it.
Did you understand the question, Dr. Heron?
Yeah, Mr. Snipes, if you would mind addressing the difference between the amount budgeted in the CIP and the current bid that we are considering tonight. Thank you, sir.
Good evening again, Ms. Cook. Could you repeat your question? I was at my seat and could not actually hear.
Sorry, I know it's probably hard to hear me. So the amount that we're approving is $826,000, which I think exceeds what was budgeted. And so, but maybe I've got that wrong. And so I'm just, if you could help me understand that. I just don't want to approve something that exceeds the budget if we don't have money being pulled from elsewhere. So I just want to make sure that we're covered.
That's a really good question, but we are not exceeding our budget. This budget was approved in FY, I want to say 20, in the amount of about $1.4 million because it includes a refurb, it includes the gym floor replacement, and it also includes some restroom fittings and finishing. This budget came in almost 40% under budget.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't, okay, thank you. That wasn't clear, so I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Snipes. Any other questions? All right, is there a motion for this award of contract?
Mr. Chair, I approve the award of contract for invitation for bid number 2022930, interior refurbishment of Norwich Elementary School to Vertexco in the amount of $826,000.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Any other discussion? Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. 9.06, approval of amendment to contract with ALC Schools. And this is the additional transportation service that we receive for certain students. And we had previously approved 1.1 million, and today we had a conversation or a presentation to offer a padding as much of $25,000, excuse me, and just to make sure we get through the end of the year without any hiccups.
Mr. Dowell?
Yes.
Or Mr.
Where am I
Snipes?
looking?
Over
Yes.
here. Clarification, I believe 9.07 is what we're on, or 9.06? Okay.
So we're on the amendment, right?
Thank you.
Am I wrong?
Thank you.
Okay, okay. Yeah, the amendment, 25,000. Any questions, further questions for staff before we take a motion? All right. Is there a motion for this amendment to the cooperative contract for this year?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend the school board approve additional contingency funding for the contract with ALC Schools LLC for $25,000, which would bring the total cost for FY22 to a cost not to exceed $1,125,000.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Beers. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Any discussion? Do you have a question, Ms. Aller?
Just that was a motion for 9.07.
Were we on the wrong? I was looking for contingency funding. I didn't see that. So 9.06. Are you on 9.06, Dr. Beers?
Sorry?
Item 9.06.
Yes. I'm sorry, what's the question? I was looking
Yeah.
at something else.
So we read the wrong recommendation here.
9.06.
I believe we did read the right one. I
What are
think
you
we're-
looking at, Ms.
We're on
Aller?
the amendment to the contract at
Yeah.
9.06, which has been, a motion's made and approved, and
For 9.06.
which
Yeah.
is amending the contract to add 25,000.
For the current contract. Yeah. Okay. We're good.
So is that okay? When we say-
You're good.
Oh, yeah,
Is that
we're
okay?
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Aller?
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley. Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Now what everybody's waiting for. Next year. All right. Approval of purchase request, item 9.07 to ALC Schools LLC under cooperative contract R190401.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we approve the purchase request to ALC Schools LLC under the cooperative contract number R190401 with Omnia Partners in the amount of $1,266,750.
And there's a little bit more there. The associated budget transfer
Where is that?
Yeah, where is
No,
that?
that's not there.
under recommended action, 9.07.
I'm not seeing it.
Is there an associated budget transfer?
There is, and we failed to put that in the motion that was made, so we do need to add that there will be a budget transfer requested. It's down under cost budgeted.
It's in the amount of $1,266,750, right?
I'm reading the recommendation here. It says, move to approve the purchase request to ALC Schools LLC under cooperative contract R190401 with Omnia Partners in the amount of $1.266750 and the associated budget transfer.
Okay.
Item 9.07. Am I the only one that sees that?
Yeah. I see it.
I see it. I think he was reading the topic.
Yeah.
The topic.
Okay.
But I see what you're looking at. Okay.
So all we need from you, Dr. Beers, is a associated budget transfer.
Okay, whoa, so where's that? I didn't see that wording here.
I don't have it either.
You mean that includes this?
Up here. Right here. Move this right here. Recommended action.
Okay. I move that we approve the purchase request to ALC Schools, LLC, under cooperative contract number R190401 with Omnia Partners in the amount of $1,266,750 and the associated budget transfer.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Any discussion? Ms. Cook, you good?
I'm good, thank you, sir.
Dollar.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
Wow. Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley. Mrs. Ortego. Aye. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right. A little clunky tonight, but that's okay. 9.08. Got ALC behind us. Approval of award of contract for invitation for bid number 20221136 interior refurbishment of Stonehouse Elementary School, not Norge, Stonehouse, 9.08.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Ms. Hummel.
I move to approve the award of contract for invitation for bid number 2022-1136 interior refurbishment of Stonehouse Elementary School to GC Commercial in the amount of $439,752.
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Hummel. Thank you, Ms. Hundley. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Aller.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego. Aye. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
And Mr. Dowell.
Aye. 9.09, approval of the personnel actions. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve personnel actions as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Cook. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Aller.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego. Aye. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. And 9.10, approval of personnel appointment book. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the annual personnel appointment book for fiscal year 2022-2023 as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Excuse me. Is
I
there a
second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Any discussion around the appointment book?
Are we going to fix the?
We do need to, has that been repaired? There was one item. Mr. Baker?
Yes, we'll repair it.
Thank you, sir. All right. No other discussion. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Ortego. Aye. Mrs. Young.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel. Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. 9.11, approval of pay scales and classification plan. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the pay scales and classification plan for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Hundley. Thank you. Any discussion? And Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Young. Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Ms. Cook.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego. Aye. Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right. Thank you all for enduring that. A little clunky, but we got through it. And item 10.01, board member comments. Can we start with Ms. Young?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to congratulate both Stephanie Klein and Mr. Patrick, who are Teacher of the Year and our Rookie Teacher of the Year. I had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Patrick, who was utterly delightful, and it resonated with me that both of our Teachers of the Year and Rookie of the Year, that they had people outside when they were young that influenced them grandparents and parents that made them realize that education was their calling. And I think both Ms. Huntley and I can certainly testify to that feeling. And it was wonderful to see that. It was good to get back together. And I'm happy, I was happy to participate in that. Secondly, whatever the General Assembly decides, I want to echo the superintendent's statement that we want to protect the 7% raise for our teachers and employees. That's extremely important, I think, to me, and I think to most of the board. We value our employees, we recognize their hard work, and we understand the difficulties that have been presented this year, and want them to know that they are appreciated. And lastly, in regard to our community comments, I want to propose the idea that when we do not agree with another speaker, that does not necessarily constitute another's idea as being false. It bothered me tonight that somebody used the word false. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't necessarily make your stance any less valuable. By calling it false, I think it shows a lack of respect for other people's opinions. And with that, I conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Hummel?
Hi, I just wanted to compliment all the people that came out tonight that we were recognizing. It was such a nice change from last year at this time to be able to have all the students actually compete in forensics, compete in swim competitions, just be able to be normal high school students doing what they love in sports or theater or, you know, all the things that are the nice, fun things outside of the academic side of things. So anyway, I just wanted to say it was so much fun to see them, and then so much fun to recognize our wonderful support employees. It was a great feel-good experience to go to the Teacher of the Year event and see the Rookie of the Years and the Teachers of the Year, and just all the positivity coming through in the last couple weeks. It's been just very reassuring. And then I want to throw out a kudos to my fellow board member, Mrs. Hundley, for her very positive experiences when she goes out to the schools and she finds all the really fun, wonderful, cool things that are happening in our schools, and she posts about it. I think it's just a really nice nice way to share the love of what's going on in WJCC. So that's it.
Ms. Cook?
Thank you all for allowing me to participate remotely today. It's a little bit of a disembodied experience, but I really do appreciate it. And I won't add anything other than thanks to you all and thanks to staff for all their hard work.
Especially for me, it feels like you're speaking over me.
Oh dear, that sounds awful.
Ms. Hundley?
Okay, so I'm going to share the love for those of you that don't read the posts. I was at Lafayette, was senior survivor, and I would have to give a big shout out to SHIP because they had wrote a grant for 40 Magic Bullet smoothie makers. And so we were there for 4 lunch periods. We needed 10 seniors to sign up to watch us make a smoothie. They tried it, and they each got a Magic Bullet. And it was, now the smoothies they made, it was funny, they said it tastes like chalk, but it's because they're used to tropical smoothie, which puts a lot of sweetener in there. So we did get to give them a little lesson on, you know, what kinds of things add to their smoothies. But they were very appreciative of that. Another little girl said, "Can you please give me a note so my mom doesn't think I took this?" So I felt bad for her. Like, yeah, you can tell your mom that we did give that to you. Then we went to look at the garden tower because SHIP also wrote a grant, and each biology class at the high schools has a garden tower where they're growing their own salad and basil and other things, and it's lit up and it waters itself and it has a beautiful trickling sound. So that's a shout out to SHIP. Then the B crew invited me in to talk about what it was like to be a teacher when I was a teacher. And if you don't know what the B crew is, Hornsby Middle School has an elective where there are 14 students that go over to JBB to shadow a teacher and help kids. And they all told me the things they liked doing over there. And I'm telling you that those 14 kids that are moving into high school, I could tell they already had a passion for teaching. They were like kid magnets, and the things they were talking about reminded me of when I was young and what I liked and why I wanted to be a teacher. So I hope the high schools are ready, because they could be in the next 8 years after they graduate from college, they could be coming back here to work. So I was excited for the B crew. And then Mr. Snipes and Kira was our tour guide at operations. And that was the first time I was over there. And it was just phenomenal. I think everybody needs a field trip out there to see the Wall of Fame and the history from each school. There were things I didn't know, why Cooley Field was named Cooley Field. And but the most exciting thing was I got to ride in the electric school bus. I just did a loop, and the gas doesn't cost anything because it's electric, so it was okay. I saved y'all money, but it was so smooth, and you couldn't even hear the bus running. So thank you to Mr. Snipes, and they have a nice family atmosphere over there. And I didn't want to leave. It was a beautiful day, and everybody was just happy. So I just shared my love with everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Hunley. Ms. Ortega?
First, I want to, did you drive the bus?
I did not. I
Oh,
only
'cause we
could ride.
need some
No,
bus
I don't have a CDL.
Just kidding. Yeah, I just wanted to say I greatly appreciated being able to participate in honoring all of our Teachers of the Year last week. It was my first time, obviously, and I just continue to be impressed by the incredible staff that we have, teachers and staff that we have, and I'm just glad that we had such a wonderful reception and way to honor them. And also congratulations to the support staff and community partners and student athletes that we were able to honor tonight. It's always one of the best parts of these meetings, getting to see the faces that make everything run, and then some of the faces that are the reason we make everything run. So that's wonderful. I also want to thank all the speakers who came out tonight, each and every one. I made notes and I took to heart all the comments. Like to offer condolences to the gentleman who lost his son, just from one parent to another, and just say that while I encourage dialogue always and encourage people to come and share their opinions and feelings, I feel a little disheartened because I think that well-intending members of our community are talking past each other in a lot of ways, and I think that even occurred amongst the 7 of us last week in some of the conversations we've had. I think people have a narrative in their mind and they stick with that, and I feel like sometimes we talk past each other. I don't think that showing empathy and respect for children, especially children with any kind of special needs or extraordinary circumstances, and showing empathy and respect to concerned parents and taxpayers are mutually exclusive at all. So I think that we can demonstrate that to everyone without a conflict. And I think that's all the more reason that we make sure that we as leaders in this area follow our own policies and processes properly and allow input from our community at critical junctures so that we can avoid talking past each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Dr. Beers?
I just, really all I wanted to say tonight was to congratulate all the students, all the teachers, all the support staff, and especially our business partners who are honored tonight. Collectively, they demonstrate what a really superior school system we have, and also reinforces how much support we get from around the community. So I very much appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. I'm really excited to see what these outdoor learning spaces actually look like and how they're used. I know they're going to be well received by our schools, so really looking forward to that. Teachers of the Year, that was my first as well, 3rd year on the board now, and that was my first time getting to celebrate our Teachers of the Year and support staff as well, volunteers of the year. And I think I've said this before, but I cannot imagine having to make the decision on who is going to earn that top accolade and represent the division going forward. But I can also see, having gone through the celebratory moment with our teachers and their principals and APs, that those are moments where we can encourage and embolden everybody to do their best. Like this is that teacher's story, you know, why they care about students, you know, what's their history, and sharing that with the division writ large, I think has a great benefit for all of our teachers, just to keep them encouraged and keep them motivated, reminding each individual teacher why they got into this field in the first place. So thank you for letting me to be a part of that, Dr. Herron and board members for joining us that evening. To our support teachers and students this evening and the community support that we recognize, thank you guys so much. Students, I imagine you're fantastic students as well on the field and in the classroom, and you're at the final push of the year. Stay focused, stay engaged, and continue to make your families proud as you make this division proud. And to our speakers, I think Ms. Ortico, you said it very well. And you know, there were moments in our evening listening to the public where I'm thinking and I'm hoping maybe they're hearing this. You know, maybe we'll hear this perspective, or maybe we'll hear that perspective, and we can find some commonality, some middle ground here. So I greatly appreciate everybody coming out and being willing to share your perspective. It's not necessarily a unique one, because you find that there are many that share a common perspective as you. But we need your voice on both sides of the conversation so that everybody can hear one another and try to come to a middle ground on these issues that we all care about. So thank you for our speakers for coming out. I want to move on to item 11.01, upcoming events. Got a lot. Policy Committee meeting on May 19th at 8:30 virtually. School Liaison Committee on May 25th at 8 a.m. In the Annex, room 300. Student Advisory Committee on the same day, the 25th of May at 3 at Lafayette High School Media Center. The WJCC Retirement Ceremony, May 31st at 5, Toka Woods School of Education at William & Mary. The GED Program Completion Ceremony on June 1st at 5, Jamestown High School. At Duke of Gloucester Street Parade for Jamestown on June 6th at 5:30 on Duke of Gloucester. So Jamestown's the 6th, Lafayette is the 7th. Yep. At the same location, 5:30, and War Hills Duke of Gloucester Parade is on the 8th at 5:30. All right. Now, upcoming meetings, June 7th, we've got closed session at 6:15 to accommodate board members being at that Duke of Gloucester Parade. Work session and action items to follow at 6:45 at the Annex, room 300 for both meetings. And then closed session and regular meeting on the 21st, 5:30 for the closed session at the Annex, and then the regular meeting to follow at 6:30 here in this gymnasium. Okay. Any last thoughts or comments from board? Dr. Herron?
Sure.
Okay. With that, this meeting's adjourned.